welcome to Season 2, Episode 20 of the Film Bros Championship Podcast. I am Tim, and with me is my co-host Patrick, who probably has a ton of lines ready from Van Helsing himself. How you doing, buddy?
Wind!
Not again where I thought you were going.
I knew.
Dang it.
I had to hold it back when you said Van Helsing. Like, nope, not doing that one. Saving those for later.
Do you have them all ready?
Oh, you better fucking believe it. I have them already.
I kind of figured.
I know at this point in his life, Anthony Hopkins was a drinking man. And
Yeah.
I don't know of him using any other substances, but he seems to be acting in a way where he is like doing all the cocaine, and I love every goddamn second of it.
Does he gets sober somewhat after this, right?
Yeah.
Somewhat
Yeah.
soon after that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he was a bigger drinker than anything else.
Yeah, because I remember reading up the trivia on Mask of Zorro.
Yeah.
And him being the sober guy there.
Yeah, but still partying like an animal.
Yeah, I love the stories
Sounds like
about him dancing.
He's like,
Yeah, this sounds amazing.
Yeah, I would have like lived to have like hang out with drunk Anthony Hopkins if he was like dancing on tables sober. Like, oh my god, this guy was like next level fun.
Sure was. So we watched Bram Stoker's Dracula, and it was your pick, Jakku. So take us away, buddy.
It's Dracula. I mean, it is honestly one
Tale as old as time.
Basically, it is probably the most accurate version of the book.
Yeah, because they even try to get like the journal entries and all that kind of stuff, you know,
right?
Dating it and everything.
The big difference is, and an improvement in my opinion on the book, is adding in the love story aspect, which is just not there at all.
Yeah.
In fact, Dracula is just barely in the book.
I mean, it's hardcore to even advertise in the posters. You know,
yeah, love never dies.
Is, yeah, exactly. So it's there.
Yeah.
And it's super interesting. By the way, we love this movie. This is a great
since
movie.
The day it came out, we were just like, yeah.
I remember
absolutely yes.
The trailer freaked me out when I was little, and I'm pretty sure it was rented or watched at our house, but I wasn't allowed to see it yet. And it was a
Keanu Reeves movie, so at some point it got rented because of her big sister,
right?
Who grew into a hater. It's just funny.
Yeah, which is weird.
Yeah.
But well, with this movie maybe, but
boo.
I peeked my head downstairs because I would do that from time to time. I wouldn't be allowed to watch. The rest of you would all watch in the living room, and then I'd kind of go into that little dining room that turned into a living room area.
It was a Callahan family tradition. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'd kind of watch a little bit before I could get caught.
Yeah.
And when I happened to peek for that movie was the giant bat scene in the room and everything.
Let's read the trailer too.
I know, and I saw that part too, and that part in the trailer freaked me out. And then here happens to be the part that I pop in on, and I remember being like a stunned kid from The Shining almost, where I'm like, oh my god, what am I looking at? This is so scary type of deal.
Shit's awesome.
And man, you know what? It still holds up. I still love it.
Yeah, they basically do all old school effects in this movie.
How cool is all the painted backdrop type of stuff?
Yeah, the matte paintings are beautiful. They do like basically they have updated but like used old effects that they used in like old Hollywood, like Golden Age Hollywood, like glass. What do they call it? Glass shots, where they would have pieces of glass that would have like parts of the painting that they put over the film, and just like projections on people's faces instead of like having like any kind of CGI or anything like that.
Right.
And optical editing or whatever. It is cool. Everything is so
super
tactical and cool, and almost every single inch of this film is shot on a soundstage.
I mean, I believe it, but it's so tactile and it's so real. It's great. I think there's only really one effect that I'm like, ugh.
Which one?
It's probably the only way they would have pulled it off. The blue fire ring stuff, blue flame stuff. It's terrible. I mean, it's not like the worst stuff we've seen at all by any means this season, but it's so glaring in so much awesomeness. Like there's so much great, and then you see that and you're like, man, it's so out of place with the rest of this movie.
Well, it's still once again not CGI. They used like old school effects with that one. I would love to talk to him about that as far as like what his intent was, because in the book, the blue flame came like only on certain times a year or only once a year, I forget what it was, and it would signify buried treasure. And it's like so.
Oh, weird.
But that is like not at all what it's doing here in this movie. So like,
no, this seems like a defensive thing.
So like, I guess. So it's just like
that's what I didn't make any sense to me at first early on, but later on where she seems to be doing her little spell casting thing that she seems to be getting Dracula. It almost, and it seems to be trying to keep someone out, so it seemed like a gate almost.
Yeah.
Sure.
For this, so Coppola loved the book as a kid, and when he's like first starting up in New York, trying to be a theater director and stuff like that, he's working as a camp counselor for a summer, and he had like a bunch of 8-year-olds or whatever in his cabin and him. It's like this weird movie, Meatballs movie or whatever. And he decided to like read them sections of Dracula every night, and like got through the book
nice
with the 8-year-old kids by the end of like their part in camp. And so he had always like loved this book. And years later, he's about to make Godfather 3, and Winona Ryder drops out because of like sheer exhaustion from having to do so much stuff at the same time.
She was working a lot in this era.
And she's still basically a kid too.
Yeah.
And he has no hard feelings, but they meet again after, and she's like, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. And like, hey, would you take a look at this Dracula script that I'm kind of attached to? And he's like, Dracula?
What now?
Like, oh, that's my jam. And so he did this as like a work for hire thing, because he made a bunch of movies that lost a lot of money, like Cotton Club and One from the Heart. And so that's why he's like, all right, I'm going to do Godfather 3 and Bram Stoker's Dracula for the money, just to get back on stage, because he put all of his money into these other projects that just like lost everything. Like he was fighting.
But that must be pretty cool to do something of a childhood love I think it was. As a thing just to make money that ends up being this works out perfectly.
And I think if you watch him, if you listen to the commentary for him, he's still like kind of delighted by a lot of the things he got to do, but still like, it's not all mine. I didn't get any part in handing the script and stuff, but like, I still like a lot of the stuff that I did in this. He was supposed to do Mary Shelley's Frankenstein afterwards, but then he's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done making movies
I kind of did what I needed to do in this genre.
Yeah, I'm going to go start making some wine so I can make my own tiny little movies instead and not deal with any other studio people at all. Like, his distaste for studio people at this point is like off the charts.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
So
let's so we decided our hero for this movie is gonna be Winona Ryder there,
and
Van Helsing. It's gonna be Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah,
the combination of the two of them. That's I think our hero. It's a little weird because it's like Mina's kind of more of a backgroundish almost character in the beginning a little bit. And then Anthony Hopkins is narrating, and he's not really in it a little bit. At least you see that quick little. Is he reincarnated or just having fun there in the beginning?
He's definitely reincarnated.
Yeah. But anyway, he does like, this is where I show up in the story. But anyway, so like, and then they really latter half of the movie, they're your definite two main characters, I think.
Right. So as Tim said, Winona Ryder plays Mina Murray, a school teacher engaged to Jonathan Harker. And she wants to hurry up and get married because she is DTF.
I never got is she a school teacher in the movie? I never really did they say
literally
anything
a
like
line
that?
of dialogue that she's a school teacher.
I must have missed that one.
Yeah.
Darn. All right.
I think it's in voiceover.
Fair enough. Okay.
And our other hero is Abraham Van Helsing, played by Anthony Hopkins, a professor of rare blood diseases who also has a more than a little knowledge about vampire Nosferatu.
Of course. I'm pretty sure that giant book came from his own personal collection.
It's so funny. In the book, he like literally like he's like, this sounds familiar, and he like leaves England to go over to like back to Amsterdam for a quick second to go check out some books.
Yeah. Hop, skip, and a jump over.
Yeah, and then he comes back and like Lucy's dead. He's like, ah, damn! But I found out what's going on too. Anyway,
still kind of happens. He
just goes to dinner in this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
So it turns out Mina and Van Helsing are both in this version of the movie are both reincarnations of Dracula's bride, Elisabetta, and his nameless priest.
Right.
Winona I get, but Hopkins playing both parts is a little odd.
It's super weird.
It's just like the Catholic Church really knows how to hold a grudge. It's really
yeah. I don't get.
We don't believe in reincarnation, but we're so pissed about this.
How dare he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's for some other, because for the story it makes sense. Love never dies and all that kind of stuff. Like I totally get it.
It's a great twist on the legend. It's great.
Yeah, I like it. But when you see Anthony Hopkins in the fake beard and you're like, what? Like it's a little weird. Like it throws you a little bit in that scene. But thank God you have Gary Oldman, who just makes you completely forget about that almost immediately.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that later.
So the defeated vengeful Turks shoot an arrow with a message of Vlad's defeat and death, and the sorrowful Elisabetta kills herself via swan dive.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into more into that later on in the villain. But when we first meet Mina proper in the present day,
right,
we see how incredibly disappointed she is at the news Jonathan is going away on business, because girl just wants to go ahead and get married because she is horny.
For sure. She's like looking at her friend's Kama Sutra book and is like, yeah,
that is her own book. Don't blame Lucy on this one.
You think it was her own book?
Yeah, Lucy does not own a copy of Arabian Nights. She's just as fascinated by that book as Mina is.
Because she's like, I thought it was like Kama Sutra because they're showing all these
explicit
pictures.
The cover is Arabian Nights.
And then she's like, oh, how disgusting. But then it's like,
Yeah, no, they're both like staring at those pictures very hard. Apparently that was a book from Coppola's own collection and is lost now. He has no idea what happened to it. And he's super bummed about it. It's like, I had this entire collection, and this is the only... I used my own personal book, and now I don't know where it is. That's so annoying.
Yeah, it's probably someone from that worked on that set, like, swiped it or something,
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
You'd think there would be some kind of record of someone trying to sell it, but yeah, that's crazy.
So my girl is, like, super horny looking at these, like, erotic pictures in the Arabian Nights book. A little embarrassed about it, because English tradition.
Right.
And then her friend Lucy catches, who is even hornier. Catches her looking at the pictures, and they both kind of like, joke around about it.
Right. I mean, there's so many like innuendo jokes that will follow that interaction too. But I guess we can kind of get that in Sidekick.
Yeah,
but
like our first like two interactions with like Mina let us know that she is just so horny and repressed and just wants to.
She's ready to go.
And then
she needs marriage.
We meet Lucy, and all of a sudden Mina seems very chaste.
Yeah, I know. But then you see like other scenes later, like, yeah, no, she's just as ready. Especially like, and I hate to jump ahead, but I think it kind of goes on this point, right? Later on in the movie, after she eventually marries Jonathan, right? So it's, it says, it's quite very clear it's post-marriage, and she basically says, now that I am married, I understand why I'm so infatuated with my prince or whatever. And it's like, oh, she's just horny.
Yeah.
Like she just wants him because she's sexually attracted to this man.
This is one of the horniest movies I've ever seen made. It is incredible horny. Off the charts. And I wish Coppola had talked about it more, but he's like, I'm not going to get into it too much.
It purely is like, okay, so Jonathan is the right thing I'm supposed to do society-wise and all that kind of stuff. but here's this bad boy, and I totally want to.
Who just reeks of sex.
Yeah, I want some of that, you know?
Yeah.
And now that I've probably, got married and had sex, now I understand what my desire is here.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, okay, it's pretty clear.
So like,
that's what it is.
Okay. So then Dracula comes to town. For some reason brings the rain with him. And it just sort of makes everybody in the greater area of London super, like, they're all going nuts. You got Jack Stewart is doing morphine.
But is that something he's doing for the first time, or is it something he's probably been doing?
In the book,
okay,
Jack Stewart does morphine a little bit on the regular to help him sleep because of dealing with the post-breakup, the rejection from Lucy. Okay. And he's even kind of like, yeah, I got to slow down with this stuff. But that's how he helps himself sleep. But you see, like, it's affecting everybody because, like, everybody in his asylum is actually going ape shit nuts.
Yeah, they're going crazy.
And even Mina and Lucy have decided to go and dance in the rain and make out for some reason.
Yeah, that's weird, random.
Sure.
Because, like, you kind of get the footing of where they're at, right? Repressed, horny, all that kind of stuff. Maybe one more explicit than the other. But then when all of a sudden you're, like, seeing them, it's quick, but you see them starting to kiss and stuff, and you're like, what now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you get the impression that was the first time they ever did?
That's a really great question. I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that they've done that more than a few times.
I think maybe sometimes in their friendship they've had some fun sometimes where it's happened every once in a while, but they don't talk about it.
That's my reading. Yeah. They share a bed sometimes for funsies.
Right. Yeah, for funsies.
But like, so then later on, Mina runs into Dracula proper in the street, and he says he wants to check out the movies, and she suggests if she's looking for culture, he should go and check out one of the museums in the area. Right. The Mina in this movie is like way more assertive than the one that's in the book, and basically in any other version of this story that I've seen put on film. Yeah. And she's kind of a nerd. She's into science. He's like, oh, what amazing science when they go to the movies. And she's like, this isn't science. Like, what would Madame Curie say to you saying this? And her knowing who Madame Curie is at this point is like, let you know what kind of hardcore nerd she is. And it's just way cooler version. Because in the book, she's just like everybody's mom. And like everyone's favorite virgin mom.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
She is very much standing up for herself.
Yeah.
And is not cool with the advances being made to her and stuff. So it's really only her morality almost, and being like, all right, I'm kind of being presumptive jerk here. Okay, I'll be nice type of deal. Totally. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's definitely different.
So 55 minutes into this 128-minute movie, Van Helsing finally appears. Teaching a class, and because this...
He's been narrating, though. There's been some narration here or there from
we
him.
get to see him on screen. And because this is the horniest movie ever made, my man is teaching about STDs.
Yeah.
In fact, civilization and civilization have advanced together.
His accent in this movie is interesting.
I love it.
It's great, but I feel like sometimes it slightly changes. Not that all of a sudden, like, necessarily, like, it's weird. It's hard to say.
I understand. Sometimes he tends to be more German than he is, and sometimes he's just Anthony Hopkins.
Yes.
But let me tell you, when you read this super Dutch character in the book, you just want to rip it in half every time he talks. It's so annoying. He's like the most annoying character in the book. Like, oh, this effing guy.
Oh, which is great because obviously that's the opposite in this movie. He's it's like a breath of fresh air
100%.
When he finally shows up. Like he is slinging jokes. He's got an energy out the wazoo.
I think of 30 Rock where like Jack is talking to Lemon about his original hit success. It's just like some kind of toaster oven. It's like you need the third heat.
Right.
You need the third heat. That's why he hires Tracy Jordan. And I feel like that's what Anthony Hopkins is coming into this movie. We needed that third heat. We were already good, but then that third heat came in like, oh, baby, here we go.
takes it up a notch.
And Coppola was talking about, he pulled like Hopkins aside, like, I need you to be as big as Dracula.
Wow.
And I like that because I've never seen that version of Van Helsing on screen before. To be as big as a character as Dracula himself. And Hopkins like, I got you, boo.
I got you. Man, does he deliver.
Ooh, baby.
It is insane. And I'm not going to trample because I'm sure you got the quotes to go with it.
More than a few.
It is amazing the amount of stuff he's throwing out there.
So Van Helsing arrives at Lucy's home wearing an incredible hat.
And his whole outfit, I love it.
The hat especially makes it all for me.
Yeah.
And after he gets there, he hears Lucy screams and deduces, and when he sees her, he deduces that she needs like an immediate blood transfusion. And her fiance Arthur rushes in, demanding, "What the hell is going on here?" Which is basically all Carrie Elways gets to say in this movie, and we'll get into more of that later.
Yeah.
And then Helsing and Jack fill him in that she needs a blood transfusion. Arthur, please, sir, my life is hers. I would give her my very last drop to save her. Your last drop? Thank you. You're most welcome here.
We won't need that yet, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. Yeah.
It's just like, Hopkins is like tremendously funny in this movie.
It's so great. And it's weird because it's like not only is he like amazing right off the bat, and it's not even his best stuff yet.
No.
Like it's good. And I think like there's moments here too, like the last drop stuff. It's like they took that and was like, hey, Anthony, could you do that again in Mask of Zorro? Because it's the same kind of subtle humor.
Well, first
that he brings in that too.
Everybody knows that if you're a friend of Anthony Hopkins, you call him Tony.
Tony, that's true. That's true. You call him Tony. That's right.
But yeah, I think you're right. He's just so deadpan funny, or is it so sly?
It's great. It's great.
So Dracula takes Mina out after they have their little rendezvous in the cinema, and I'll go into that one later.
Yeah.
Dracula takes Mina out to enjoy some absinthe together.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the Green Fairy or just her proximity to him, but Mina is somehow able to tap into her memories of her past life and can almost describe Transylvania from memory. And it's actually a really great scene for Winona Ryder. Because the camera is just entirely on her face, where she's like going through these memories and like the pain of almost remembering it. And it has like little showing flashbacks to everything that had happened in the prologue.
They do. Although I have to say, you say that, but there's these quick clips back to Dracula with Gary Oldman there that I love it in that moment too.
We're not here to talk about Dracula right now.
We'll talk about it later. I said we'll talk about it later.
I want to give Winona her roses.
Fair enough. It's not what I would have went with her, but sure.
Well, I'm not done.
All right. Fair enough.
So, back to Van Helsing. My dude is so weird and horny in this movie because like everyone else. And when he first meets Mina, he starts like...
He's got his own harem. He's got concubines, so yeah.
I'll get to that later. He starts like dancing with Mina and tells her that there are darknesses in my life, my child, and there are lights. You are one of the lights, dear Mina. The light of all lights. Yeah. He then gives her like this like sniff and says, "Go now, see your friend."
Yeah.
The sniff is just like, what? Go now, see your friend.
He's got what he needs.
Yeah.
He's intoxicated by it.
Van Helsing consults some books after treating Lucy for a little while and realizes that they're up against a vampire. Dracula himself. Yeah. And
that moment was weird to me.
Where he's consulting the book and the winds are going on and everything.
But yeah, I don't know how, from the information he has to go on, and whatever he comes across in that book, it's not just any vampire, it's Dracula. And I don't know what information he has to make that, because he's looking at the story and the, the skinning and the decapitation and the pikes and all that kind of stuff. But what has he seen to tie to that?
Literally none. But
none. It's a weird. By the way, it doesn't matter because I'm still gonna love this movie to death. But it's a weird moment. I'm like, all right, that's kind of a weird drop.
No, there are a bunch of points in this movie where you're just like,
yeah,
what? No, whatever.
It's a fumble. It's definitely a fumble point.
We're having fun here,
for sure.
And that he's so excited that he has figured out that it's Dracula. He decides to go out for a celebration meal. And he leaves Quincy to guard. He's like, guard her well, Mr. Morris, or else your Miss Lucy will become a bitch of the devil, a whore of darkness. And Van Helsing starts humping Quincy's leg.
Yeah, he gives him a little
to illustrate the point. And she is the devil's concubine.
Oh, I love that delivery of that line specifically.
Jack, I starve. Feed me.
Yes, it's like, oh my gosh, it's line after line in that scene.
It is pure cocaine. I'm sniffing it all up, loving it. It is so good,
amazing. Yeah. It's so good, and I love too. Is that I starve, I'm hungry, or whatever. Feed me.
Yeah,
it's so good. And then later too, when he's got he has to talk to Mina and Jonathan. And he's like, come, eat. Everyone must eat. And he's back on the food thing. And he's just diving away as he's talking about killing people.
Yeah.
And I love the where she, she's asking questions. Mina's asking questions about how her friend died. And he's so brutally honest. It's amazing.
I have this later, but yeah. So it's interesting juxtaposition between him and Mina / Dracula, where those characters are so obsessed with death, and this guy seems to love being alive and relishes in the stuff that's great about being alive.
Right.
And so it works. It really does.
Yeah.
So, of course, they fail in protecting Lucy, and Lucy dies. And at Lucy's funeral, Van Helsing pulls Jack away and asks Jack to get him some large surgical knives. And Jack says, an autopsy for Lucy? No, not exactly. I just want to cut off her head and cut out her heart. And Jack quickly walks away. He's trying to pull him back. Kind of annoyed. No, come back. No. He's not having any. I love it. It's such a quiet, hilarious moment from him.
Yeah, it's that deadpan, hilarious delivery of it. Mm-hmm. It's just, he's so good at it.
Yeah. So Van Helsing eventually convinces the boys to join him at Lucy's crypt to put her out of her newly eternal misery.
It's more greatness from him again.
Arthur freaks out when he realizes that she's not in the coffin.
There's some great looks, but this is more of a sidekick character.
Well, I'm going to just going to say that. And then he pulls a gun on him, and Van Helsing delivers this little speech. He's like, she lives beyond the grace of God, a wanderer in the darkness. She is vampire, Nosferatu. These creatures do not die like bee after the first sting, but instead grow strong and become immortal once infected by another Nosferatu. And I don't do it justice, but
it's not bad.
Thank you. Anthony Hopkins is just
yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, no, he's again,
he's going much slower in the delivery. I'm trying to go fast as the podcast, but it's
right,
beautiful.
Right. It is great.
And
but he's pretty quick with it too, but it's so serious in the way he's delivering that.
Mm-hmm.
That it brings you back to a serious point, and it's really good.
And it works on Arthur. He lowers his gun.
Yeah. It kind of gets everybody in line.
Yeah. So the part Tim was mentioning before, newly married Mina and Jonathan hook up with Van Helsing for dinner, and Mina asked if Lucy was in great pain when she died. Van Helsing is kind of exasperated by the question, a little annoyed.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, she was in great pain. Then we cut off her head, drove a stake through her heart, and burned it, and then she found peace. Doctor, please!
Yeah, I mean, because at the same time, it's children, It's kind of don't be so naive.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. Let's get over this kind of stuff. You see what we're dealing with. And that's kind of how it's delivered, and it's great.
Mm. So later on, you have Dracula appearing in the asylum to Mina, where she's hiding while Van Helsing and the boys bust up his place.
Right.
And she begs him to turn him into a vampire and take her away from all this death. And he has his doubts, but Mina is just too horny. And
oh my gosh, yeah. This is where I would say this and towards the end is where I would give her some flowers. She is she does some really great work here in this scene.
And I gotta say, like, no man alive is saying no to Winona Ryder at that moment. Like, whatever she asks for, it's like,
yeah,
whatever.
Not at all.
Whatever you want, babe.
Well, you can kind of see it, right? It's so interesting where it's like, yeah, I can't fight. I can't fight this at all. Like it's not great logic that she's giving, and he goes, okay, kind of deal.
It's funny. Like, I don't think she gets a producer credit for it, but I'm pretty sure Winona Ryder had a hand in all the casting in this movie.
Oh, really?
And was like super excited to work with Gary Oldman, but they did not get along.
Wow!
At all during filming. No, they did a great job. They did well during the rehearsals, but once Gary Oldman's a method actor,
that doesn't rub people the right way sometimes.
100%, and like the demand of the method versus somebody who's not doing the method is just too intense. Like, calm the F down. And like the method actor is just like, no, it must be like this, and oil and water.
Right. It's like the only way they can kind of get in the space to do it. And then there's the other people who are like, well, it's acting.
Yeah. And it's a credit to both their talents that you can't tell on screen.
Exactly. I got to admit, that kind of surprised me. I had no idea.
Yeah. And after Dracula is defeated later on in the movie, Mina grabs like Quincy's Winchester and tells the fellas to back off and goes into the chapel with Dracula. And Dracula like confronts a tearful Mina and tells her it's over and begs her for peace. And so she pushes the knife in further and then cuts off his head. And then she looks up and sees like this, like, I don't know, portrait on the ceiling of what looks like her and Dracula, because her ancestor, Elizabetha.
Right.
In fact, that was actually a suggestion by Francis Ford Coppola's good friend George Lucas, who saw the original cut, and the original cut was just her slamming the knife through. And he's like, she should cut off his head. That would be the nicest thing for him.
Kermit the Frog.
Sorry, that's just how he sounds. I can't help it.
It's another great Family Guy sketch when they have all the people have the same, it's like him, Kermit the Frog, Ray Romano, and like all the people that have the same kind of cadence and volume.
Yeah, just incredible stuff.
So
that's all.
But I really liked the gun pointing, and him, her talking to Jonathan.
Yeah, would you do the same for me when it's my turn?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great moment from her. I loved her hitting on Van Helsing, and that whole part. I thought she did a great job with.
Hot.
And
she's so hot.
Yeah. And then everything in the chapel, and her knowing it's the end, and still loving him, and kissing him even with his beastly face type thing, and her looking up. I thought everything from her in that scene was really great. And also, it's kind of a little bit of action-y, but I really enjoyed Anthony Hopkins and Van Helsing faced with the concubines and
that I have an action,
and him with her. I just want, because we're talking about Hero a little bit. I'm not going to get into details, but he's really great in that moment as well.
So I gave this category a 4.
One second. Yep, there. Yeah. I also had a 4.
Hey, look at us. Who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have thought? Yeah.
Villain.
Oh, what a villain. It's amazing because and as you said it before, right? This is Dracula. We've all seen a version of this story so many times.
So many.
And it's amazing too, because you've probably seen way more than me, obviously, especially going into you went obviously into the Hammer movies, all that. I definitely have my blind spots there. But we grew up on Universal Dracula, and we owned that VHS and all that kind of stuff, and it's so good the way he can deliver stuff that has already been done before.
Yeah, like you said,
and still bring it with some I've never seen this before.
Yeah, no, Lugosi played the part twice. Then you had because you had the original Dracula and then Dracula. Abbott and Costello meet Dracula. There's the only 2 times you played Dracula.
Yeah.
On screen. And then you had John Carradine picking up the slack to play Dracula in like the Wolfman meets Frankenstein movies type stuff.
Right.
Then Christopher Lee played the part like 10 times.
Right.
And after that, we had, God, I think Udo Kier played Dracula once.
Gerard Butler.
Well, that came way later. That came after.
Yeah, I know. I was just throwing it out there.
But like,
do you even know the guy who played Dracula in your favorite Monster Squad?
Oh, the German guy? No, not off the top of my head.
But you don't have to look it up. I know you know that Dracula because you love that movie. I love that movie too. Yeah.
Duncan Regehr. Sorry, Tom Noonan is the one I always think of for that movie, playing Frankenstein. Anyway, so yeah, you had Jack Palance. You had
right.
Oh, what was his name? Frank Langella played really good.
Oh yeah,
Dracula, which was like an adaptation of the play. Yeah, but like even after with all that baggage, like how many Dracula movies there have been, I still consider like this the definitive version of the character.
And it's interesting because it's not like a lot of those Draculas are pretty big people. Like they're tall, they're very imposing.
Yeah, no, this is the shortest Dracula.
Gary Oldman is not at all.
No,
but for some odd reason, he's still maybe as frightening as most of them.
If Gary Oldman shouted in my face, I would turn into a puddle.
Oh, without a doubt.
I would be looking down on him and turn into a puddle.
I mean, how many times do we'll quote just The Professional where he just goes, everyone.
I mean, it's one of many movies I constantly quote from Gary Oldman, but yeah.
I mean, it's kind of insane, right? Because I feel like a lot of the movies we watch too, there's a lot of prime Gary Oldman stuff going on in that era, right? I mean, with Air Force One, and The Professional, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Like, I mean, we saw some really great, like, prime Gary Oldman type stuff.
Proud of you for not mentioning The Fifth Element.
Well, you know, some people really love that movie. I'm not one of them.
Nor am I.
I'm not one of them either. I mean, it's not because of Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman is no matter what, he's great. And to be honest, he's probably the most fun in that movie, especially the way he dies. But yeah, not for me.
Yeah,
it's not for me.
So the movie starts off with Vlad Tepes of the Order of Dracul, the dragon.
How cool is his armor?
Well, I was going to mention.
It's so not historically accurate. It's ridiculous. And it is the coolest freaking thing I've ever seen. And I wonder if it's like the people that will eventually make the cell saw that armor and was like, yes.
Like maybe.
More of
I mean,
that.
it definitely looks like he's a big like plastic dragon man. Red Dragon Man.
Yeah.
And it looks awesome.
With the lines going down with the curves and the mask, and it's phenomenal looking. It's so cool.
So Vlad is called on by the Catholic Church to repel the invasion of the Ottoman Turks. Mm-hmm. He is greatly outnumbered, but he's got one of the coolest armor sets I've ever seen in a movie.
Yes.
So he naturally defeats the Turks and does some impaling on the way home.
Of course. And I love... I want to know more about how they did it. But a lot of those action sequences, and they kind of use it later when they're in the camera thing of the little stick things to reenact stuff, the puppet stuff. So did they do it with puppets? Because it looks like it, but it doesn't at the same time. Like it doesn't look like the stick figure things.
It's puppets,
but it is puppets.
Yeah, no, it's
nuts.
amazing, isn't it?
It's so good.
Yeah. And
I love all of it.
They had to do that like we had no money. At this point, we'd already used all our money for all the other effects, so we had to find the cheapest way possible and try to stylize it. And like, it works amazing.
It worked.
It
works so good.
Yeah,
it's insane how much I like that stuff. It's so cool.
Yeah. So Vlad finds his wife dead when he returns home, and his priest lets him know her soul is damned for committing suicide. Just like,
hey, this might be too soon,
right?
but
It's like the worst timing ever. Oh, well, here, I want you to know she's going to hell. Dick.
what is the matter? Like, imagine his other priests like giving him the look, like
You couldn't have waited 5 minutes. So Vlad just like goes off and he curses the church and God and vows to rise from his grave with all the powers of darkness for his vengeance.
It is so intense and phenomenal from Gary Oldman here.
Yeah.
When he's
speaking a different
stabbing
language.
the cross, he's
I was
going
going to
in
get
and out of
that part
language
later in action, but yeah.
Well, but and the blood's coming. I mean, everything from that is, and the music pairs with it amazingly well.
The score of this movie is awesome.
It's such a great, like, it really like amps you up. Like, oh wow,
yeah,
like, dang.
I feel like it's a trick that James Wan would use later on for his haunted movies. Just like the high pitched strings going on, let you know horror. It's like, yeah, it works good.
It does. It's there's so many good things, but I have to say, and you gotta, like, it doesn't work without Gary Oldman and what he's doing.
No,
like,
he's incredible. Wow. So like Oldman is just amazing in this role, and it seems like he has a different way of speaking in each of the forms that Dracula can transform into.
Yeah.
My favorite, though, of course, is Old Man Dracula.
Okay.
Which also seems to be the character at its most evil.
Oh, for sure.
The hair, the makeup, and costuming. Can't imagine how dirty that long red robe is.
And it seems to be his natural state, because every time he's not around Mina or other people and he's in his box or whatever, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, he's in his old man state.
Yeah, I wondered about that too.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
And it's anyway. It's all so incredibly weird and off-putting when you see him in this old man getup. Yeah. But Oldman shines through and makes the classic lines his own. Like, I bid you welcome to my home.
I think it's still pretty good old man makeup.
Oh, it's great. But like saying
the way he
these
delivers
classic lines,
classic
we've heard
lines
a million times before. Like,
yep,
it's brilliant.
It's great. Yeah, I never drink wine, but like it's done differently, and it still insanely works. And the weirdest moment, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, but the accent changes in the old, and it's the only time I could notice where in the old man form and makeup where the accent is very noticeably different. Still foreign, still not English or anything, but it's the wolves and the sweet music they make line. it's there's a slightly different cadence in that accent, and it's so noticeable to me. Where it's like almost like I can't, more guttural. I can't
try.
Put my finger on it. I'm not going to, Oldman, but it's still amazing.
Oldman apparently hired a singing coach to teach him how to like drop an octave, so he could like make Dracula sound extra creepy.
Okay, it makes sense.
And just like you can't reproduce that. And I'm really glad they decided not to do the Fu Manchu mustache that he has in the book.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh boy.
Yeah, the only movie that I recall, or Dracula Project, is like the Netflix series.
Yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah. The one they kind of did like the female Van Helsing, basically.
Yeah, and the 3-part.
Yeah.
The first part.
The parts of that I really liked.
Yeah, the first part with him and Harker in the castle is the most accurate to the book, where like he starts off as super old, and then like as he's drinking Harker's blood without Harker knowing it, he becomes younger and develops an English accent. And speaks his English so much more because he absorbs his knowledge as he drinks his blood, and that's something that's
Makes
not
sense.
in this movie because he can sort of just like transform at will here.
Yeah. Yeah, really, it doesn't seem like it matters, and so that's what I was wondering too. If it's the dirt that he needs to make him more powerful and young, and he doesn't always go into it, I guess.
The only way he can sleep, he needs to sleep in his own dirt. So like even his coffin will have like a layer of dirt from his homeland in it. I don't know why. That is part of the legend that is right there in the book as well.
Yeah, but not in a lot of iterations, so it's interesting.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
sometimes people just drop that just needs the coffin because it's cleaner.
Yeah.
He's like, no, needs to sleep in his home dirt.
Yeah. Because it's like weird when that happens in, how he becomes a vampire in that beginning. It's like, what part of that? Well, how do you figure that one out? That he needed the dirt. Like,
he had a couple hundred years to figure it out. It's like 1421.
I guess that's true, right? Yeah.
Late
Somebody thought he was dead and buried him, and then he's like, wow, this is great.
Yeah. So Dracula's powers in this are too numerous to count. He can control minds, change form into a wolf, a giant bat, or smoke. Super strong, turns himself old or young, and he can pull off blue shade sunglasses incredibly well.
Sometimes his smoke turns green.
Is it any other color any other time? I don't remember green when he's...
No, sometimes. Yeah, no, I thought other times he's just kind of smoke or whatever, isn't it?
I only remember him seeing green smoke when he was smoke.
Okay, fair enough. Wolf, bat, werewolf, man.
That's right. Yeah, he has wolf, man, and wolf. Full on wolf.
Yeah.
That's right.
And man bat. So he's got various different forms going on.
Love the man bat.
Love the man bat. Like if they're ever to do man bat in a Batman movie, like take notes.
No, it couldn't look that scary.
Please, I would love that.
I'm sure you would, but they would never let that in a kids movie.
Especially in the Batman. No, come on. They've made some more adult Batman movies. They could do it.
I can see the studio being like, nope, too scary. Do again.
We did Batman Returns. Thank you. We can do it.
Yeah, what did they do after Batman Returns? Yeah, exactly.
Goddamn McDonald's.
So Dracula begins his seduction of Mina at the movie screening, and the
this costume, by the way,
the gray suit with the blue sunglasses.
Yeah, and of course they're like slightly down, so it's like, why are we using these sunglasses? Also, we're in England and everything's overcast, but I don't think you need them. But whatever. The hat, it's a ridiculous outfit, and I love it. And he pulls it off.
He just makes that shit look good. I don't know.
It does. No one else. I feel like anybody else in that costume would be like, "You look stupid."
Yeah. No.
Gary Oldman, you look amazing.
I love when he begins his seduction after, like, with Mina, like in earnest, and like they do that like that dolly shot where the two of them, he's like pulling her away from the crowd, and they're sort of like floating in air.
Why does he show up in cameras? By the way, in video cameras.
When does he show up in a video camera?
So when you first see him in England walking the streets,
that's not actually him on camera. That's just Francis Ford Coppola. Like, I wanted to shoot
being
this
stylistic.
Exactly, as an old timey movie.
It's weird. It doesn't work.
Doesn't bother me.
It's like a weird. It's again. I love this movie, Ride or Die, but it's a weird fumble.
This movie is style, and I love it all.
It is gorgeous, that's for sure.
So like anyway, he pulls her away. And I love that in the background, like whatever movie that they put on after whatever they watched before is now turned into a nudie movie.
Yeah, it's like a stag film. Yeah.
All of a sudden, they're like, okay. And then he delivers.
Because the horniness is on.
Yeah. He delivers the iconic line, "I have crossed oceans of time to find you." Yeah. And it's an incredible line. And then his red eyes pop out and his fangs start to grow. And it's just like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, it's great. Because you really do, like, it's not out of nowhere. They really do it throughout the movie of this internal struggle that he's going with, right? This is his love that he believes is reincarnated, right? And all that. But like you clearly start to see him think like, I am a horrible like demon of the night type of thing. Do I really want to
make her like me? Yeah.
Yeah, why would I want to do that? And you could see that struggle almost right there, and it comes back again later on. Like it's nice.
And I think it really starts a chain of like the mopey vampire movie, which is just like I don't remember it ever really having been done much before this. Or like
it is also a weird moment with Mina because I'm like at one point I'm like, is she just too horned up and infatuated? Is there a level of she's being messed with too? Because right away it's see me now. You know what I mean? So he is messing with her at some level, just how much, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question. He seems to have some sort of pheromonic power over women. or victims. Well, really just women in this movie.
Right.
Only has
Yeah.
victims. But I think in the end she's like totally into it at the same time. But it's fascinating.
Yeah. No, I think she is totally into it, but there are parts where it almost seems like he is using some of his abilities to nudge this along.
Yeah, he does.
So yeah. By the way, are we saving the shaving knife scene later? Are we doing that later?
Yes. I do have this written in action just because I love how creepy that whole scene is.
I love it. Okay, fair enough. Move on.
So later on, Mina leaves to go and marry Jonathan in Romania, the convent. And when Dracula gets the letter, the Dear John letter, he starts crying purple. And then he starts crying blood instead.
It's weird because I remember in my memory it being blood. And then you see the drop onto the letter. I'm like, purple? But then I'm thinking maybe it is blood, but the red blood being mixed with whatever the pen was, ink, is what made it go purple.
I don't know. It definitely drops purple and then turns.
It definitely, there's purple on the paper. But
I don't think red could ever turn. I don't think blood could be defeated by any other color. It's just like you mix blood with something else, it's gonna be blood. So that's where he like freaks out and does this wind. And I'm like, I don't know what the point of this is, but I love this.
But it's cool with the candles and the black. You see nothing but the candles in him. You see that too in their dance scene at one point. It's such a cool visual.
And then out of spite for losing Mina, Dracula revisits Lucy to finish the job and transforms back into old man Dracula.
Random times. It's weird when he randomly decides to do this.
Your impotent men with their foolish spells cannot protect you from my power. I condemn you to living death, to eternal hunger for living blood.
It's great.
It's like,
it's again one of those ones where it's like we can't do it justice. The way he delivers that line, especially the way he just says the word blood.
Yes.
It is insane. How blood. Yeah. It's so good. I wish I could communicate in that way, right?
No, it's delicious. Dang. And just like I love every second of it. Everything else I want to touch up on action.
Yeah, I think that's
so much more.
Because there's so much more of him that is kind of more almost a spectator in the rest of it. Because he's kind of in a box for a lot of it.
For the last third of the movie.
Or where it's action sequences type of stuff. So it's kind of hard.
So I gave the character a 5.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Look at us.
Like without we're simpatico.
Oh, look at us. Wow.
Look at wow. Keep it moving, right? No, without a doubt. It's such a memorable Dracula performances. And I know I have missed out on many, but he's my favorite.
I would only ask you to check out some of the Christopher Lee stuff, but otherwise
that's my big blank spot would be the Christopher Lee stuff, and I do love Christopher Lee, and he's hardcore, but he's my favorite.
Okay, action.
Yes.
So first bit of action I have written down because I just love the visuals of the whole thing is Vlad shoving his sword into the cross at the beginning of the movie, and the blood just like slowly trickling out and then pouring everywhere afterwards.
When he stabs the cross, yeah. I was gonna say there is a sequence of the battle where he's piking people. And you see the impaling, right? And you see the one guy slowly moving down the pole.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, like it's just rough to watch. Like you really see him slowly moving down it. That I really love.
Not pleasant.
It's not. No. Like, oh.
So when we eventually meet Dracula in his like supernatural form.
Yeah.
I just love Dracula's shadow in this movie.
Yes.
It is so cool. So
it's so cool.
Coppola had this idea that when you're in the presence of a vampire, physics suddenly don't work right.
Makes sense.
It's entirely
especially
his idea, and it works great.
Yeah.
So the way they did the shadow thing is that we'd have, Gary Oldman there, and they would have a different actor portray the shadow, sort of off screen.
So cool.
So that's
it's so cool.
Yeah, it is. So, it works great because you have the shadow it's like facing the wrong way. It's acting on its own. Sometimes it mimics him and sometimes it doesn't.
It's ingenious because some of the best horror is what leaves you unsettled.
Yeah.
And not understanding what's going on.
So like
right? It sucks you in right away. So when you see the shadow here, so you're expecting you probably don't even cognizantly realize that because I see the shadow, this is where I'm expecting the character to be, because it's a very obvious shadow, and then the character comes from a completely different spot. So you're like, whoa.
Yeah, or the two of them are facing the camera.
Right.
Both just looking dead on, and the shadow is moving on its own to like choke the life out of Jonathan as he's talking about his love of Mina. It's so great.
And it's amazing. And I know it's a different movie, but I have to bring up Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Don't mind. And it's spoofed directly from this movie, so
it's a spoof of this movie, and they took that idea of the shadow and everything and did some really hilarious stuff with it.
Underappreciated Mel Brooks movie.
I totally agree. It really is. I think it's a forgotten Mel Brooks movie that is actually really, really, really funny.
Yeah.
But anyway,
sorry. On top of like other symbols of like the physics working wrong, you have rats running upside down on beams on the ceiling.
Yeah.
You have liquid dripping up instead of down.
Up. Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's just like this little slight touches like, oh, that ain't right.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. I wish
it really is.
The effects existed outside of Dracula's castle. My only criticism. Because physics all seem to work fine once he's out of Transylvania. It's only in the castle where things are like...
his powers are limited, though. They kind of, right? He's racing home almost as a way to kind of strengthen back up, right?
All right, Coppola. I don't know about that, but all right.
I mean, I'm just saying, right? He's got a limited amount of dirt in there in England, so, I'm...
Okay, so they touch on it in the movie. It's in the book. In the movie, you see that he has bought many properties, not just Carfax Abbey.
Yeah.
And
I think they do mention that.
Right, but they don't follow up on it at all in the movie.
Not at all.
They go to Carfax
Everything
Abbey.
is oddly really close together. The mansion, the insane asylum, the Carfax Abbey, like they're all like stupid almost right next to each other.
Well, Carfax Abbey being the neighborhood of the asylum was always part of the book. But he has he buys houses all over town, and he comes to England with like 50 boxes of dirt, and he keeps boxes of dirt all over the place.
Do you think it's like he has
somewhere on the other side of town and go to bed there, and that has to come all the way back down?
Okay. Well, see, I was weird because I was almost thinking like, is it a thing like once he sleeps in the dirt, he needs like a new fresh thing of dirt, so he's got to get like regular boxes sent or something? Like that's kind of where my head was at first.
A fair question,
but that makes sense
considering the way it's displayed in this movie. But no, that's not how it works.
Okay,
he just needs the dirt, so it makes more sense in the book. One of the few things.
Well, you would think too, like plants, nutrients, like that's kind of where my head was at.
No, I understand. Yeah,
yeah.
So anyway, back to action effects. I love the floating conveyor belt trick they do like a few times in this movie.
Yeah.
First when like the carriage driver lifts Jonathan into the carriage with like one arm and puts him inside the carriage.
That's got to be some camera old school effect too with that. The way they kind of did the it's weird because they almost zoom in. Like it's zoomed out and then it zooms in with it, and then the arm comes like it's
supposedly
really good.
they couldn't figure out how to do it, and the special effects guy went home and figured it out after hours.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, here's what we do. We put these guys on planks of wood, and then we zoom in, and like, I still, it's good. It's really good effect. And then they do it again when Dracula enters Jonathan's room in the castle. Where he sort of just like kind of floats in.
Yeah.
Like I said, almost like on a conveyor belt, and like the door closes behind him.
Doesn't he kind of float almost away like that with Mina at one point too?
Well, when he's dragging her away in the cinematography, whatever it's called, the movie theater.
Right.
Yeah, he does the same thing that he drags her together. He's kind of sweeping her off her feet.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
Like, I know you're into this. Stop it.
Yeah, and then he comes into the room and he sees the mirror, and the mirror breaks.
It just breaks.
In the book, he breaks it himself, and it says the same line. It's like, a bauble for the narcissist or something like that.
His accent, though, sometimes is so strong. I'm like, I could have probably used some subtitles at times. Because some of the stuff I missed, you know what I mean?
I don't know. I think I've seen this movie like 50 times, so I know it all. Perhaps
it's a fair. I kind of get the gist of everything, so I kind of just let it fly. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I kind of was like, whatever. Okay, it breaks. He's got supernatural power. Sure, you could explain a lot of that away. Whatever.
Yeah.
But that's not the best part of that.
Supposedly, Oldman was drunk for the scene.
Really?
Yeah, and just like kind of went with vibes, which makes sense. Like, man, I wonder if him and Hopkins went out together one night. Anyway,
or from what I heard from Keanu in this movie too.
Well, no, Keanu gave Coppola a gift. I think Keanu was always very professional on set.
He probably is. You're right.
So Keanu is shaving himself and is surprised when the Count appears and cuts himself, and of course the Count sort of like and grabs the razor from him, and then when Keanu's back is turned, he like licks the razor and just like
But it's such a delicacy, delicious thing that I'm can't stop craving myself with, and it's amazing.
It's great, creepy fun.
It's insane. You know what's insane? That in with the licking of blood in the same year, we have Gary Oldman here in Bram Stoker's Dracula, and we have Kronos with off the bathroom floor. It's very similar, like vibes.
And Innocent Blood. It was a good year for vampires.
That's true. Yeah. Good point.
So Jonathan goes snooping around Dracula's castle, and
which he was warned not to do.
Yep, it's true.
It's old castle. Don't do it.
He eventually finds himself in Dracula's bride's chamber.
Yes.
And I have to say,
Monica Bellucci?
I would simply let Monica Bellucci drink all of my blood. Just like...
I knew you were going with that.
Go ahead. It's fine.
What a scene.
It's really amazing. I love...
It's amazing. The way they appear through, like,
supposedly Coppola hooked up with a magician to work out how this scene could work.
Wow.
So like the invisible footprints leading towards the bed as the brides are walking over, and then they appearing from beneath the bed and entering.
It's great,
as if they were always there.
How one of them pops up literally between his legs.
That's the dream, Tim. That's the dream.
And it's like, it is something else, and it's great to call back later with Anthony Hopkins when they do have that meal. It is confirmed infidelity.
Tim, calm down. He was impotent with fear.
Sure.
It just fed on him. It makes zero sense that Dracula would allow a mirror above a bed, but it's cool as hell to see Jonathan getting fed on by seemingly invisible vampires.
Yeah. Well, you just got to have that effect where it's cool looking. To be honest, and I always remembered that one, the one that I was like, there's a point where, like, what was it? It was a boy giving him a paper or something in town, and when he's in London, when he's all younger and stuff like that, and all you see is the reflection, because you just see Mina in the shop and the reflection of the window.
Yeah, you see the boy giving a paper to
Paper.
nobody. Yeah,
never noticed that until this time.
Yeah,
this watching, it was the first time I noticed that, and I was like, Oh wow, okay, that was good.
Yeah. I love. So Dracula gets really angry that the brides are feeding on his dinner. He's like, "You say for me? How dare you?" And the brides are all complaining, "Are we to get nothing?"
He's mine.
Yeah. Are we to get nothing? And maybe the most creepy and horrifying scene in the movie and in the book. I'm really glad they kept this from the book.
This I don't want to trample on.
Go ahead. You explain it.
No, I don't want to explain it, but I don't want to. You're gonna get mad, but I don't want to trample on Sidekick too much. But this is the best Keanu moment of the movie.
Okay, yeah, no, all the stuff in the castle I really love, but so Dracula is like, no, girls, I got you, and he brings out this little baby, like a couple of days old baby.
Yeah,
and
real young,
and feeds it and gives it to the brides to feed on, and this is where like Jonathan Harker just freaks out,
and again, it is the best Keanu performance in the whole movie, and like it really is. Like you see his face, especially when he first sees the baby kind of presented. It is oh my. Like, I think he delivers it perfectly.
Yeah.
Like, how he would deliver it how anyone would probably feel in that moment.
Yeah, if he saw three women, like, eating a baby alive, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, in response to his now newly arrived insanity, Dracula just has, like, the best evil laugh ever committed to screen.
Oh, my gosh, yes. I mean, it's something that, like... I feel like for a while after this movie, if they were to do like just previews of just general movies or horror or whatever, it usually would at some point go to this moment in this laugh.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've stopped doing that, and we should not stop. Like it should be something that just comes up as a, do you remember this scene? Because, oh my God.
Yeah.
You all remember where you were.
So, Dracula lands in London after eating the entire crew of the Demeter.
Yes.
And he makes
Which I still need to see that movie, by the way.
Me too.
Yeah.
He makes a beeline to Lucy's house, and I guess summons Lucy to him telepathically. And
I guess.
Tells her to...
But, I mean, you kind of get the vibe that he's keeping... like influence kind of voyeur, my eyes in the sky, even from afar.
Oh, always
like,
throughout the movie, there's shots of his eyes in the sky watching what's going on.
Which is always cool.
Always cool.
Always cool looking. Yeah. So clearly, even from that far away, he's plugged in.
Right. But like when he summons her out of the house, he tells her to put on a slutty little outfit for him first, I guess.
Which is a pretty impressive thing for a 19-year-old living at home to still to have this attire.
Yeah, I mean, no way was she sleeping in that. She wore a little something special for him.
Yeah, she did.
So Mina wakes up from the storm and notices Lucy is missing and goes looking for her in a barely there dressing gown. And I can't.
Oh yeah,
I can't help but wonder if Winona knew exactly how see-through that thing was.
It is insanely see-through.
Grateful it shows up twice in this movie.
Yes, I was about to say, I'm like, it's not the last time that we see this getup.
Yeah.
Dang.
Eventually, Mina finds Lucy in the garden, like getting railed on and fed on by wolf form Dracula.
Yeah,
or man wolf Dracula, and
which he's not a fan of. It is a gnarly sight, but then he's like, "Oh, can't have you see me like this." So he kind of mesmerizes and like, you don't remember I'm here, I'm out.
Yeah, he's like, he's like embarrassed. He's like, no, you can't see me.
Do you remember Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, When Nature Calls, the second one?
Sure.
And so you kind of get the gist in that scene where he did have sex with the princess or whatever like that.
I can tell that.
Oh mama, right? And he's like in the hut, and the guy comes in. He's like, oh,
that's
like, you know what I mean? Like
what he's doing. He's alone in that scene.
No, I know, but that's actually what happened. But anyway, but that moment of him being like, I got a very aroused and it's like almost like a blue ball situation.
No, it definitely looks like he has blue balls after Mina and Lucy leave, where he's like,
right, exactly. It gave me the same kind of vibes as Ace Ventura 2 there. So that's why I was like, it kind of made me laugh because I don't think I've ever made that, like, these things are kind of similar and it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But Yeah.
So
he's like panting, like, oh, oh.
Yeah, he's like coming down, like. So later on, when Dracula's furious that Mina has left him and decides to kill Lucy, he's
pissed.
He turns into like a full-on wolf, and like just bursts into the room and goes to town on her neck. And it looks
a nice scene too, the way he goes like into wolf through the window.
Yeah, the transformation from old man Dracula into straight wolf. It's a great transition, and it looks like they used a real wolf in this scene, and they used some smart edits. Like they had the real wolf eating something with a lot of quick cuts to make it look like it's eating her neck. It's awesome. It's very effective.
I agree. You know, it was kind of funny because I was listening to our episode on Sleepwalkers too, when I was kind of frustrated on after the hand being torn off thing, and when he finally goes for him, it doesn't quite work. It's like, oh man, and this is where it does work. This is where it took that idea and actually effectively did it.
Yeah. So one of the most iconic scenes in the movie, you have vampire Lucy coming back to her grave wearing what was supposed to be her wedding dress, the most ugly wedding dress ever to exist.
Yes, it's weird too because you see her trying it on, and you're like, we sure about this? We
for a wedding dress?
Yeah. Really?
Anyway,
this is like something like Elizabethan era. Why are we doing this here? But yeah,
works great as a burial dress. She's got milk white skin, and she's holding this crying toddler, while candles automatically light as she walks by it.
Again, the music keying in, and it's the music first with the sound that keys you in. It is so effectively creepy.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And when Van Helsing forces her back into the coffin with the crucifix, they shot it in reverse and played it forward, so it looks so unnatural the way she moves.
Yeah, but oddly enough, I've seen that style before, probably since, you know.
Well, you saw it in Twin Peaks Fire Walk with
Yeah,
Me.
it's true. But sometimes it could look so much more clippier, which is also really kind of freaky and creepy.
Yeah.
But this one didn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't that clippy. And so it really was really neat looking to see where
it's cool as hell.
It was cool. Yeah, it was really cool.
And Lucy goes down, waits a beat, and then pops back up again to vomit blood all over Van Helsing.
Awesome. And it's kind of great because it's like, wow, this came out the same year as Army of Darkness, and it's the same kind of
it really is
the thing with it.
And he shouts some more Latin and throws the crucifix at her some more,
which is so weird too. Like somehow he read in that book that you just got to say this stuff and it just puts vampires to sleep.
He shout some prayers and hold the crucifix. I don't know. It was a big book, that vampire book.
It was big.
So Abe then hands Arthur a metal stake to hammer into Lucy's heart, and when he's done hammering away, he chops off her head.
Yeah, and never mind. I'll get into Sidekick. Never mind. There was some good stuff with Sidekick there, but yeah, it's so freaking freaky, and it's also scary and funny at the same time. How when they show up to like surprise her, because they all hide at first, right? How she just drops the kid, and runs or whatever, she doesn't run, but she just drops the kid. Like, who cares? Right, but it's just like it's such a weird like. I kind of laugh at first, but then I'm like, this is horrific. And like
the scene that really always gets me is like the vampire like hiss when he first shows the crucifix. Like it's the most effective vampire hiss maybe ever. It's so good and scary looking.
It really is.
So moving on, you got the green smoke Dracula, easily the lamest of Dracula's forms in this movie.
Yeah.
And the murder of Renfield kind of sucks. You just kind of
it's amazing how weak the throwing against the cell really looked. I gotta say, it wasn't amazing how like it's like I never felt like, ooh, like he really got hit in there. You know what I mean? It really like it looked like a bad wrestler take.
Yeah, like kind of like a mid shove. Like,
yeah, it really didn't look great.
Yeah, in the book, he gets his face literally like smashed in.
Right.
And it's just like, I don't think that could happen against those bars. It's just like,
heck, with that kind of setup in the outfit they had him, they should just had him like, I don't know, hung him by those sleeves or something.
Right.
It was just it was a little lackluster the way Renfield.
But
goes.
it's okay because then we also have giant bat form Dracula appearing
Which is
in the rafters.
Amazing.
Yeah, he first appears in the rafters of Carfax Abbey while Van Helsing and the boys appear and destroy and consecrate Drax's boxes of dirt.
Did they put a ton of the budget towards this suit? Because, oh my gosh.
Apparently, this was an idea that Oldman created. He's like,
really?
You know what would be cool is if we did this giant bat thing. And it's funny. So, like, Coppola is like he's a theater guy, right? That's how he started off his career. And he insists on rehearsing all this stuff before they actually start filming.
Right.
Gary Oldman is, because he's a method guy, is like, I don't know how to do this.
I need to be in the
I don't know
moment.
how to do the rehearsing thing without the costume. And
right.
This led to a day where like Coppola just walked off set really just angry at Gary Oldman. Just like, just fucking
do your thing.
Just fucking do it. He wasn't the only one annoyed with the rehearsing. Hopkins drove him nuts too. I was like, I don't know why we're doing this.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll get more into that later.
I'm curious if he did this kind of method stuff when he plays Commissioner Gordon, because that would have drove me nuts. You're Commissioner Gordon. What do you need to be method for?
I think for the Batman movies and the Harry Potter movies, like, yeah, I'm just here to collect a paycheck. I'm good.
Fair enough.
Not that he's bad. He's just like, yeah, I'm good.
No, I don't need to do it for this.
Yeah. So Bat Dracula looks fucking rad as hell.
It's amazing.
Yeah, even better when Van Helsing and the boys break in to the asylum after Dracula finishes infecting Mina.
Whoever created the suit needs to be commended.
And he lights Van Helsing's like cross on fire. He's like,
yeah,
it is just outstanding.
The cross seems so ineffective in this movie because everyone
worked against Lucy.
I guess it's the only one it worked against, right? Because even when Jonathan's got the cross on him when he's, getting raped or whatever, they just melted off his chest. Like, all right, whatever, get rid of that nonsense. Like, it's not very effective. Maybe against new vampires, it's effective. Ones who've been around a while, it's like, all right, let's get rid of this.
Yeah, Big Daddy, it's not going to work as well.
Even the concubines didn't work.
So you have later on, Van Helsing, Mina, and the boys hunt down Dracula, who is going back to his castle. And eventually, Van Helsing and Mina split up with the boys, who will continue to chase while they go directly to the castle.
Yeah.
Mina and Van Helsing camp out at the castle, and Dracula's brides put out some kind of like horny spell on the two of them.
Yeah, they can kind of be invisible clearly, and they can kind of manipulate.
They're putting out the vibes.
Yeah,
and Mina tries to seduce and bite Van Helsing, and he escapes and puts them both into a protective circle by making snow light on fire.
That was amazing,
right?
No, I'm not sure
how
he
pulled that off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you clearly see how they pull that off, but it's like, there's no way he was able to do that realistically in that moment. So it's a bit of a drop off there. Yeah.
So the brides settle for slaughtering Van Helsing's horses.
Which I love it in the shadows. It looks really cool.
Not only the shadows of the brides taking down the horses, but like the bleeding sky behind them.
Yes.
It's just like, it's so amazing to look at.
It's really cool. And you have Anthony Hopkins yelling,
"You're whores of Satan!"
It's a great moment.
Yeah.
And then you gotta love the next scene of it too, where he's like, "Hell with you! Like I'm coming in and I'm chopping all your heads off in daytime when they're supposed to be sleeping or whatever."
Right.
Great.
Girls don't get coffins apparently. They're just like hanging out in giant stone slabs.
Yeah. Although Anthony Hopkins, you could say maybe he was being manipulated too, but he was totally down with what Mina was throwing down.
Oh yeah, he was into it.
Till she had to go for that bite, and then thank God I got the body of Christ. Put to your forehead.
Which is something he did in the book. It's like it's permanently there on her head for like I don't know, the last third of the book.
Oh yeah, but magically disappears when Dracula dies.
Yes,
so
which
somehow
is also
burns
from the book.
or healed.
No, it's just like she's no longer a vampire, so it heals.
So wouldn't
She's no
have
longer affected.
yeah. She was already burned. I don't
So
know. Okay.
So next morning, like you said, he walks and chops off their heads and tosses them down in the river and says, "Dracul! Dracul!"
Yes. It was almost like an Arnold moment in a Conan or something. Like he should have done the thing or whatever.
Yeah. Should have hammer tossed the heads.
Right, yeah.
No,
exactly.
I love that he just kind of just tosses like, ugh.
Yeah, no, but I just love that the way he yelled Dracul, like, what up?
Yeah. So the chase of Dracula by the fellas.
Because apparently he's been chasing him before. I don't know. That was a weird, there was a throwaway line with that.
Okay, so yeah, it's like he knows that he's been reincarnated and his purpose on this earth is to get after Dracula. He's the only one in on it. I don't know why.
Apparently.
But whatever.
Because you don't get anything more than that, which is just, it's weird. It's a weird moment.
No doubt. So the chase of Dracula, who is in a crate of dirt on a carriage trying to beat the sun, is fun.
Yeah, even though every once in a while you just get like Dracula just being in the crate, being like, you don't really get much.
This
like,
sucks.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot for you to do here, Gary Oldman. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but like we got guys like shooting off the carriage.
Yeah, people being dragged
by horses, which is like all great stunt stuff. Like,
yeah, all real practical stuff.
Yep, all done in a studio.
It's all, and you kind of tell because it's all quick. It's all like nothing's dragged out. No pun intended. You know what I mean? Like they got to do this stuff real quick. And I guess it will be a slight knock in Sidekick, right? Because like no one really gets too quick of a time or too long of a time to shine because it's really, really fast. The way a lot of the action goes.
Yeah, it's good Western stuff. Good Western fun.
It is.
Anyway,
it is.
Eventually they arrive at the castle and the sun goes down and Dracula bursts from his crate. And
which looked great.
And
it looked great.
It really was. And then Jonathan quickly slices Dracula's throat. And then Quincy pops up into the scene, who has already been like stabbed in the back by one of Dracula's guys.
One of the gypsies. They call them gypsies, but yeah.
I know they call him that. Great. You're not supposed to call him that
great.
these days.
It's not great, but it's what they call him.
Just call him one of the guys or Romani.
It's what they call them.
I understand, but let's not do that. Let's not repeat.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. It's not great. It's not great.
You'd call him N-word Jim these days. He would not be. He wouldn't say the line. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Oh, that was cruel of you to say that when I was taking a drink.
Well, I blinked when you were doing it, so I didn't realize you were drinking. Sorry. So anyway, Quincy, who has already been stabbed in the back, jams his Bowie knife into Dracula's heart.
Yeah, and then, which they comment a lot about this knife in the movie.
We'll get into that one later. And then Dracula smacks him away, and Quincy dies. And then the last bit of action is Winona
holding them up. It's not really quite action.
Mina,
but
finally putting the kibosh on Dracula.
Yeah, but there was some cool stuff on the horses and people getting dragged and shot, and that was neat. So, I definitely liked it.
So what did you give action?
4. Oh wow, you went lower. Okay, I'm a little shocked.
I went 3. I don't know. I'm a gore hound. I would have loved to see more blood.
Yeah, for sure.
And more victims. But I
agree.
Enjoyed the craftsmanship of this whole thing. It's beautiful to look at. It's
gorgeous. It really is. Again, I really only thought the blue flame fire stuff was lame. But yeah, I could have. We didn't even get to him, old man Dracula, towards the beginning, crawling on the side of the castle, and how freaking awesome and cool that looked. Like
that's from the book too. Yeah.
There's so much cool stuff here. There's so many cool visuals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's not exactly the scariest. As much as I think the scariest is probably the Batman bat in that part. It's freaky looking.
It's good.
And as he's given his, like, he's still talking in that thing, and it's and there's some fun stuff and some cool visual effects and the action and so I think they could have used more. Blue Flame was kind of lame. could have, maybe a little bit more gore or deaths. So that's why I only took it down a point for that. So you went 2 points for that, but yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So sidekicks, some side characters you got in this movie.
This would be my lowest.
I think not for me.
So you have this is not your lowest ranking?
No.
Action is? Wow.
I have this basically tied with action, so spoiler.
Okay.
You have Tom Waits as Renfield. It is such an odd and inspired choice. Waits isn't a short man.
The problem is not enough of him.
I agree.
The problem is way too little. It's way too little.
He's not a short man, but he and the camera still make Renfield small. You know what I mean? But Waits still instills in him like a sense of danger at the same time, along with the traditional... They put a lot of baggy stuff, the baggy clothing, the baggy, his hands, in the little insane asylum get up. But he's another dude that's got such an awesome voice. Yeah.
And the way he can deliver lines and talking about Master and the back and forth between him and the Doctor about talking about life and how he gets life. And I love that
Where
scene.
He asks for a kitten. And it's like, how would you like a cat?
Like a cat. Oh my! And
that's straight from the book.
Yes,
too. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Credit.
It's so good.
Credit to Stoker on that one. That's straight from the book, and it's good stuff. And
you
Waits
gotta give
great.
credit to him. Exactly. I think he is what nails it. Although I think the Doctor just being clearly kind of off his rocker himself.
Yeah, he's a little into it.
Fast. He's way too into it, and it's a really cool scene.
It's funny. When I was listening to the director's commentary, he was singling out Waits and like how excited he loves this performance so much, and how it breaks his heart that like on when they show this movie on TV, like on basic cable, they cut all the Waits parts out to save for time.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he says. He's like, this is. Why would you do that? This is so good.
He's great, especially too if we're gonna stay on the character. When he finally gets to meet and talk to Mina, is a great part.
So all of a sudden his sanity returns for a few minutes.
Yeah, like he sees her and is all of a sudden like, "What are we doing here?" Almost.
And he knows his master's plan. He's like, "You got to get out of here right now."
Yeah, well, it's great too because he kind of realizes like, you're not with the greatest people either. Like, you need to get away from these men.
Yeah.
Like, this is, like, all this is bad.
So, moving on, you got Keanu Reeves, plays Jonathan Harker, an uptight
I love Keanu.
British lawyer who takes over the Dracula account from Renfield.
Right, he's excited by the mobility and the possibility by taking this on.
So, Keanu gets a lot of shit for this movie, including from Tim.
He should.
I think he's good. There are a couple of times where the accent and delivery is such a way that makes you go, woof. But for the most part, I think it's fine to good. Because a lot of his performance is in his face, and I think it's excellent. But yeah, when he says the lines,
the only thing I would say that was excellent, especially with his face, is the baby scene. I have to say it's the main saving grace of his performance in this movie. His performance in that scene is amazing.
I think he's great in the entire scene where the part of the movie where he's Dracula's prisoner. I think he's great.
He's not really asked to do a whole.
You know what? But that's. He's supposed to be just like this uptight British guy, and I think it works for all of it. But there's a couple like where he says like, "I was impotent with fear, and I know where the bastard sleeps." That's the
worst.
I can't help you there. I can't defend that.
it's real bad. And then he's not asked to do a whole lot afterwards. I mean, he's again really quick clips in the action sequences later. I think once the baby thing happens, he's again really quick things of him escaping. There's not a whole lot there, and then when he does come back into it, it's rough.
No. And
again, what he's asked after, it's all really quick stuff. The camera doesn't really go on him, and it's just, and I love Keanu Reeves. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Keanu Reeves defender. I really am. I am. But it's rough. A lot of this stuff.
I don't think he does the worst accent in this movie. I'm just gonna say that right now.
Is it Winona?
Nope. Winona is excellent in this movie. I have no.
Actually, I think this is. I think I gave her too much for this movie. You were right when you kind of called me out last episode. Like, wrong movie. And there are times. Don't get me wrong. There are times with her accent in this movie, and I'm like, ugh, but nothing is anywhere near as bad as Keanu Reeves.
And I don't think he's the worst in this movie. And
who is?
I'll get into that later.
I want to know now.
No, you have to wait because I want to talk about Keanu some more. So Keanu was like a late addition to this movie. Like Winona was friends and wanted him in this, and he basically was what kept her sanity while she was filming this movie because he was this breath of fresh air of kindness and being a gentleman. Like,
you want some drugs?
No one says no one has a bad word to say about Keanu Reeves.
No one.
Like even Coppola, who will not talk about the acting or at all, but it was just the sweetest human being. Just absolutely just the sweetest guy. So
everything I've ever heard is he's the most one of the most down to earth people.
And supposedly Coppola had these ideas to he believed in Winona Ryder's talent so much, and he felt that she wasn't giving it her all. So supposedly he would convince actors off screen to belittle her during her shout obscenities and stuff at her to make her make her tears more authentic. But two people, it was I'm not doing that. Oh, Anthony Hopkins and Keanu Reeves are no, she can act. We're not doing this.
I think that's fair and the correct answer to give.
Yeah, for real.
Be fair.
But it's she would apparently found her diary and just many years later and just oh, thank God I get to work with Keanu today. She's this is going to be an easier day for me. It's that kind of stuff.
Right.
Anyway, so after he escapes Dracula's castle and is found recuperating with the nuns, the experience in the castle makes Jonathan's hair turn gray early, but it looks really shitty. Someone
terrible.
Shot his hair with some costume spray paint at one point.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like someone went to Party City.
Exactly.
And got what they needed. And they're not endorsing us or anything. But anyway, it looks even worse.
Bat Dracula?
Yeah.
They made him. They clearly had him wear a white wig for that scene.
What was? Because
I don't know what is going on.
So distractingly noticeable in that one scene.
And you were talking about things you never noticed. This is the first time I never noticed. I'm wait, that is a straight up white wig. Is this in reshoots and he had already shaved his head at this point or something, and they had to put this wig on him?
It's super weird because and then after that sequence, it's back to the weird, already bad looking spray painted gray. But it's not as why are you? Yeah, why? It's basically you're right, a wig or almost. It's awful.
Yeah,
it's a great, amazing scene, and it's the one distracting. What is going on here?
Yeah, but that's all I want to say about Keanu. I'm a Keanu defender. I think he is good in this movie. There's a couple of slip ups, but otherwise, he was put in a tough position. I think he had very little time to prep, and just worked his ass off. And you know what? I thought he was fine. I don't think he's the worst part of this movie.
I think you're wrong, but I love Keanu. So,
all right. Sadie Frost plays Lucy Westenra, Mina's best friend and superior in the horny department.
Oh, for sure. She's ready to go. The amount of times her boobs are shown in this movie is almost every other scene.
2 thumbs up.
It's okay. There they are again.
Thank you for your service.
Big bed in Parliament.
Yeah. The first time we meet her, she needles Mina about checking out the erotic pictures in the Arabian Nights book, and then boasts that she had similar experiences in her dreams as those depicted in the book.
Yeah.
She's how could even someone even do that? She's I just did it. She's you liars. I did it last night in my dreams.
Yeah. And then immediately starts going on about, what's his name's knife.
Well, hold on. I have these written down.
Of course you do.
Who is that? A Texan. So young and fresh, like a wild stallion between my legs. Lucy isn't even a vampire yet at this point, and she's already instinctively talks like a predator.
Right. For sure.
And then later on, you got, oh, Quincy, please let me touch it. It's so big. And she's talking about Quincy's knife. But she's like, she knows what she's doing.
She does, because she'll give a look to the camera, which is really supposed to be where Mina is.
Yeah.
So she'll give these looks like, you get what I'm doing?
Yeah.
You see it? She does that.
And this is all pre-bite. So, like,
yeah,
the most impressive part of Dracula's powers is somehow making Lucy even hornier after the fact.
Let's put this to some use.
It's like, oh, Quincy, such a beast.
Like, she does it to all of them. She does it to all of them.
And then when she's the straight up evil vampire, she is scary as hell looking. Absolutely incredible.
The makeup they do on her and everything with the dress, like, it really is a whole thing. It's what she's doing. Don't get me wrong, she's great.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else with it too, and it is really perfect on all levels. It's insane.
So my vote for worst performance in this is Billy Campbell, the Rocketeer himself, playing Quincy P. Morris.
Disagree.
One of Lucy's suitors, and when she rejects him, he becomes the best friends to Arthur Homewood, just like in the book. That's who Lucy actually agreed to marry. And like I just said, for all the shit Keanu gets about his accent work, it's amazing that Campbell gets off scot-free.
I still think he does. I don't understand this.
Oh, Miss Lucy, you're as fresh as the spring rain.
It does not sound that bad. Oh, man.
Miss
no
Lucy,
way.
Arthur sent me to take care of you. He said if you don't get better, I have to put you out of your misery
you
like a
sound
lame
like
horse.
Jim Carrey doing the Mask impression of, like, Oklahoma or whatever.
It is so bad.
I disagree. It's nowhere near as bad as Keanu.
No
I think you're
Texan
insane.
has ever sounded like that in the history of Tejas. Just absolutely not. Like, what is this? Oh, Miss Lucy.
I mean, I'm not saying he was phenomenal by any stretch, but there's no way he's anywhere near as bad as Keanu, or even asked to do anywhere near as what Keanu was doing. So I think that is an insane freaking take.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel.
Fair enough. I mean, I think too the movie does a really good job of like, when he dies, you kind of feel it. Like, he kind of does, like, he helps. I think he does way too much more than everybody else is doing during that ending battle sequence.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, he's killing most of the people and saving everybody's butt.
Well,
Keanu too.
In the book, Jonathan and Mina are appreciative, and they name their son after him.
Well, good.
Yeah,
I think it's deserved so, because he really is like carrying the heavy load.
Yeah.
In a lot of that ending sequence, and I love the Rocketeer, but
I love the
but
Rocketeer
anyway,
too.
Get stabbed, still ends up helping even after he's stabbed, and so it's sad when he dies. Like, I think he's such a more awesome, fulfilling character and useful character than freaking Jonathan Harker. I'm sorry. Like, I think you're wrong. I think you're dead wrong on this one.
Oh, Miss Lucy.
You're just gonna. Oh, I know where the best sleeps. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
So you got Richard E. Grant playing Jack Seward.
Yeah.
And he is deeply in love with Lucy, but he's also a klutz and not as rich as Arthur, so he doesn't win.
Right. No, not at all.
He owns his or runs a mental asylum, which is next door to Carfax Abbey, and is Renfield's doctor.
Seems really close to the mansion too, but yeah.
That's a conflation, I think, with previous versions of Dracula. I don't think that's in here, that the asylum is near Lucy's house. But
seems like it is.
But the asylum is
close.
Near Carfax Abbey. For instance, in like the 31 Dracula, the Abbey is right next to... they're all right next to each other.
Right, okay.
I don't think that's true in
regardless.
this one, but yeah.
Appears that way.
When Lucy rejects him, he gets into a little trouble with morphine.
Seems like he's that way earlier, but yeah.
It's much more in the book.
Okay.
He's the former student of Abraham Van Helsing, and Grant is good in a small role, playing the frustrated, lovesick Seward, who would like to have. I would like to see more scenes of him bouncing off of Hopkins in the movie.
I agree. Actually, it's kind of one of the things where, especially later on in the movie, especially on the chase, like there's a couple times where it's like, oh yeah, that was him
with the sword.
But you almost kind of like, because it's so quick and he barely gets a chance to do anything.
And he's the one crying over dead Quincy with the terrible Texas accent.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right, and so it's sad because he's there was something there, and he just didn't get enough screen time. To be honest.
Well, speaking of not enough screen time, Cary Elwes plays Arthur Holmwood.
Yes,
he's rich and handsome, so he's naturally Lucy's choice to be her husband. Elwes gets like nothing to do in this movie besides screaming, "What's going on?"
He's so good, though, that the way insanely too little that they give him to do, he's amazing.
The best scene for him, in my opinion, is
in the coffin where
No, I was gonna say
really?
Actually, okay. When he comes home from like writing, I guess, with Quincy, and Jack tells him like, I don't know what's going on with her. I think maybe we should commit her, and he's like, how droll. But last week you wanted to marry her, and now you want to commit.
Yep.
But then he sees Lucy and how sick she is, and his face just like changes like that.
Yeah.
But also incredibly subtly. It's fast and subtle at the same time, where it goes into concern and real panic. And like
he's offering everything that he can do.
Do it. Do whatever you need to get him here. It's great work by Cary Elwes. And
I love though the what do you call it when they go to her not grave,
Lucy's crypt.
Crypt, yeah. I thought he was phenomenal in that part because a lot of it is in his face, and you know how I love that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so the great amazing terror that he puts on his face when he sees that the crypt is empty to begin with.
Where is she? What have you done with her?
I love all of it. I thought he was amazing in it. Okay. I thought he was great.
All right.
Yeah. And then again, he's another one that like in that ending action sequence, it's like not a whole lot here. It really is just dropped off, and it's a bummer. Like you kind of get. I see Keanu here, I see Quincy here, and maybe a little bit of the Doctor. Was he there? You know what I mean? Like it just drops off.
In the book, the boys split up on top of them splitting off from Van Helsing and Mina.
Right.
So like Arthur and Jonathan go and check out the possible boat route that Dracula might be taking, and they like take over a ship together to like knock out one of the Romani who was a decoy, and Quincy and Jack are riding on horseback chasing after another set of Romani. And yeah, they would have given him a little bit more to do, but also I think it would have ruined the pace of this movie. So I just don't know where you could have fitted more for them. It sucks, but
you couldn't have.
It's a thankless part, but he does the most he can with it.
I think that's the biggest problem, right? You if you were to inject more of that, it would have taken too much from everything else, and it's weird. I mean, maybe we're a product of our time right now, but it would have made the movie way too long.
Yeah. So I gave this movie a 15 out of a possible 20. This was a 3, this category. Sorry.
So, yeah, I gave it a 2.5.
Okay.
For a psychic matter, but oddly enough, I ended up higher by a half point, so I'm 15.5.
No, that makes sense because I'm higher on this and you were higher on action. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then for both of us, it slots in at number 1.
Yeah. So all the matte paintings and sets in this movie, just impeccable. Yep. Absolutely gorgeous movie to look at. So many incredible shots in the movie. Favorites are like the peacock feather transition to train tunnel.
It is such a weird, interesting, unique shot.
Yeah, and then the train then running over an image of Jonathan's journal. And then you got Dracula's eyes in the sky watching over Jonathan in the train. Just awesome stuff.
Such great dread that forms there or whatever.
I love Coppola's use of colors when like showing Transylvania. Like the sky is sometimes red, blue, bleeding. It's just it just lets you know how supernatural the place is. It looks awesome.
It's really interesting, I gotta say, for such a it's a horror genre movie, right? And things are typically gonna be more muted and dull. There is a surprising amount of color and interesting things that he's managed to throw in this movie.
Mm-hmm. This is the first time I ever took notice of the crucified wolf at Borgo Pass in the beginning of the movie. I don't care for it. I don't care. I don't know who did that to that werewolf, but I don't like it.
Yeah. Right. It's right before he gets picked up or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Roger
Ebert gave this movie 3 stars. So rare win for horror on this one.
I guess, yeah.
3 out of 4.
Yeah, you're right.
And he says the movie descends into an orgy of visual decadence, and I'm like, hell yeah.
That makes sense.
That's exactly right.
I mean, yeah. I mean, too, right? I mean, if anything for us, it could have had more in the horror, maybe more of the gore or whatever, right? That would be a little bit more up our alley if it could do anything. But there's so much here, character wise, the love story added. It's gonna be totally up their alley.
I don't know what Siskel was. I didn't look him up. I was just curious about Ebert.
Fair enough.
So this movie had a budget of $40 million. With inflation, that's a little over $86.7 million today. And it made domestically a little over $82.5 million. And with inflation, that's a little over $179 million. And the global take was a little over $215.8 million on a budget of 40.
Dang.
And with inflation, that comes to a little over $468.8 million. Wow. Big hit. Debuted at number 1 in its first weekend of release, beating Passenger 57 in its second weekend.
Always bet on black.
Yeah. A River Runs Through It in its 4th weekend, Under Siege in its 3rd, and The Mighty Ducks in its 5th weekend.
Some of them were long released, but those are some pretty dang good movies that it beat. So,
yeah. That's all I got.
What a movie. What a picture.
What a season.
What a season. Oh, yeah. Now you make me all sad.
Well, we're done. Yeah. We're done with horror for 1992. And next week is the wrap-up show.
Yeah, we're going to do awards, season awards, all that kind of stuff. So we're already kind of kicking around what our awards going to be. Some similar to last season, some unique, obviously, to horror. But just to kind of go, we both have Dracula as our number 1 movie this season. And then it changes. So we have Alien 3 and Dead Alive swapped with each other, but we both have that in our top 3. So that is our top 3 is Dracula, Alien 3, and Dead Alive. But that is my order. Yours is Dead Alive and then Alien 3. We both have Army of Darkness as number 4. And then our number 5 movie is different. Oh. Mine is Candyman, and yours is Death Becomes Her. And that is our top 5.
All right. Hey.
And I'll leave it at that. I know you get annoyed at me for going more than that. So that is our top 5.
You could do the whole list next week.
Yeah, sure. Our worst movie to this point and for a very long time has been Split Second. So I just want to put that out there as well.
All right.
Yeah, man. So awards season should be fun, and we'll talk about what we'll do for following season. Fun, man.
Yes.
All right, that is it for us. Please show your support for the podcast by leaving a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, or wherever you happen to listen to the show. Also, sharing is caring. Be sure to follow us on social media to get the latest show updates. You can contact us by emailing at filmquotechamp@gmail.com or find us by searching for the hashtag FilmQuoteChamp. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Film Bros Championship Podcast. Peace out, everyone.
She is the devil's concubine!